Hotep, Black Power, giving honor to the ancestors, giving honor to the Creator, and as always, giving honor to my sister, Chief of Staff, Brother Harris Abdul of the Street Law Soldiers, my father, my in-laws, and all the ancestors, our great ancestors, yours and mine, and ours, who fought for the liberation and salvation of our black nation, and for those who are fighting today for the liberation and salvation of the black nation. Well, today is the born day of the great ancestor, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I had done various lectures in recent years on the assassination of Dr. King, with the assistance of Brother Steve Coakley, the great ancestor Steve Coakley, and the great ancestor Barbara Dick Gregory. And combining their research along with my personal research, I concluded that it was more people than you can imagine, and more people that looked like us that were very complicit in the demise of the great Dr. King. I want to go to an excerpt and show you a William Pepper's book, Orders to Kill. For those who don't know, William Pepper is was Dr. King's lawyer, and he wrote this book. And a lot of you all have heard that Jesse Jackson was one of the culprits complicit in Dr. King's assassination. And to kind of reinforce that and confirm this, on page 245 is a section in here from a woman by the name of Ernestine Campbell. And I would like for you to just listen to what she said on that fateful day of April 4th, 1968, at the Lorraine Motel. She says, in 1968, Ernestine Campbell and her husband owned the Trumpet Hotel, which abutted the Lorraine. No one had ever talked to her or asked her about what she had saw on that fateful afternoon. Ernestine says she left the hotel and started for home just before 6 p.m. Driving her gold bronze Cadillac up Butler and turning right on Mulberry. As she passed the Lorraine Motel driveway on Butler, she saw Dr. King standing on the balcony. She didn't hear anything because she had the car windows up and the radio on. As she turned the corner to Mulberry, she looked up and saw Dr. King lying on the balcony. She thought he had a heart attack. She stopped for a minute or two at the driveway, wondering why people weren't racing to the balcony. Possibly she had arrived at the driveway when everyone was still in a state of shock. Her attention was in particular drawn to Jesse Jackson, who she said had one foot on the first step of the stairway looking up to the balcony while bent over, putting something into a suit bag. Her pause was brief, and she drove on without seeing any policemen or really noticing anyone at all. And that goes to show that when Judge Joe Brown done the ballistics on the King assassination, the King was shot with a rifle and a handgun, meaning that it was possible that the shot from the handgun left powder burns on Dr. King's shirt, meaning it was a close range shot, possibly from the bottom of the balcony. Now, Dr. King and Jesse Jackson didn't get along. They always argued. And finally, King told Jesse that he had to wear a tie to dinner. Jesse refused to wear a tie to dinner. And finally, at the end, as they were about to go to dinner at Billy Kyle's house, who was Reverend Billy Kyle's, who was an open homosexual. Jesse was in the courtyard. King was on the balcony talking to Jesse, and he told Jesse, "Don't worry about wearing a necktie to dinner." And Jesse replied, "Because, yeah, you're right, because all you need to go to a dinner with is an appetite. An appetite." And that's when the first shot rang out from the rifle and hit King. And so apparently Jesse fired the second shot. As he, after he fired the shot, was coming up the steps to make it appear like he was on the balcony the entire time, because the famous photo of everybody pointing in the direction where they thought that the shot came from, which it was entirely impossible to determine where that shot came from the rifle or the handgun. And why didn't they point down to where the close range shot came from that had gave powder burns on Dr. King's shirt? So it was all a phantom. It was all a hoax. And an array of things happened during that time, because the owner of the Lorraine Motel that worked at the front desk, when she first heard about the Dr. King being shot, she had an aneurysm on the spot and died within 5 seconds. She was dead. Now, the lady that was cleaning up the rooms, which is very, very unusual for someone to be cleaning the rooms at 6 o'clock in the evening, when normally they begin cleaning rooms at 11 a.m., between 10 and noon, changing the sheets and everything for the next people that are going to check in, possibly. Now, the lady that was changing the rooms, why was it that every year she got $1,000 for Christmas from an anonymous source? So it was more people than you can imagine that were involved and complicit in the assassination of Dr. King. Also, I'm going to let you hear an excerpt where Dr. King clearly stated that the "I had a dream" speech in reality became a nightmare.
You could see a war in Asia preventing the federal government doing for the Negroes, preventing the society doing for the Negroes that which you think had to be done?
No, I didn't envision that then. I must confess that that period was a great period of hope for me. And I'm sure for many others all across the nation, many of the Negroes who had about lost hope, saw a solid decade of progress in the South. And in 1954, which was, 64, 1963, 9 years after the Supreme Court's decision to be in the March on Washington, meant a great deal. It was a high moment, a great watershed moment. But I must confess that that dream that I had that day has at many points turned into a nightmare. Now, I'm not one to lose hope. I keep on hoping. I still have faith in the future. But I've had to analyze many things over the last few years, and I would say over the last few months. I've gone through a lot of soul-searching and agonizing moments. And I've come to see that we have many more difficult days ahead, and some of the old optimism was a little superficial, and now it must be tempered with a solid realism. And I think the realistic fact is that we still have a long, long way to go, and that we are involved in a war on Asian soil, which, if not checked and stopped, can poison the very soul of our nation.
So, we want to give honor and give thanks to Dr. King For we may agree and may not agree with all of Dr. King's strategies and, his ideas and, his concepts and views on how he saw things. We must realize, and we need to get this clear as well, although the South was dealing with legal segregation, and they were dealing with dogs, cattle prongs, fire hoses, and enormous lynchings that took place throughout the South. A lot of people get it confused that the North, the northern whites had a different attitude when that's not the case. In the North, the ideas, the energies and the attitudes were still the same as in the South. It was things were just done on a covert level in the North. Because there's no way a geographical setting can divide the entire white race, which is engaged in the system of racism, white supremacy. That just because you live a couple of 100 miles north, that you don't have the same attitude and the same beliefs as someone that lives in a white that lives in the South. That doesn't even make sense. So things were just done on a covert level, and I want to make that clear, because we have a tendency to believe that the people in the North the whites in the North were more civilized and believed in fair opportunity in exchange for the black man and woman in the North, which is completely, ludicrous and bullshit, And like I tell y'all, for those, although I'm not a Christian, for those who are Christians, whether you're a Christian or not, there's a lot of good scriptures in the Bible and cliches that can help you, because it's a lot of racial discrimination in the Bible. It's the same way, And I'm going to read something in the song in the Book of Solomon, dealing with melanin and discrimination based on melanin and being heavily melanated. And this is in the first chapter of verse 5. Say, I am black, but calmly, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me, because I am black, because the sun has looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyards have I not kept. In other words, just because a person is heavily melanated, that person was meant and sent to raise other people's vineyards and abandon their own based on the fact that they were heavily melanated, which is pure discrimination and which relates to today. When you look in entertainment and sports, music, where the light-skinned, fair-skinned, thin-haired brothers and sisters are looked upon as an ideal black, opposed to the heavily melanated, pure African warrior, god and goddess. That the blackest of the black of the black of the darkest of the dark is the most strongest individuals on the planet in terms of melanin, in terms of their organs, in terms of the UV ray blockers that the skin, that is built into the skin by way of the Creator. even in space, when you go to the darkest of the dark, to the black hole, where the purity lies. And it's the same way with us, heavily melanated brothers and sisters. Although you have a lot of heavily enriched melanin individuals who haven't been told and instructed on who they are, which led to them having self-hatred and wanting to bleach their skin and wanting to take on the complexion of the European, of the Ice Ape, of the mountain dog, of the cave bitch, instead of embracing that heavily melanin, which everyone is after. All whites, Europeans are after melanin. If you look on the bottle of melatonin, which helps them sleep at night, the ingredient says melanin. So where do they extract that melanin to put it in the pill form for them to digest so they can adjust to the dark, to get the proper rest and get the proper health that they need to survive? That's just something just to look at, something to think about. So you heavily melanated brothers and sisters, please be proud of, that beautiful complexion that you were graciously blessed with by the Creator. Now, with Dr. King, which I am extremely disappointed in the children of Dr. King, who, to this day are still fighting for Dr. King's, to sell Dr. King's Nobel Peace Prize, all of his writings, his personal journal, so they can have wealth. Because Martin Luther King III, who was a fat piece of shit, he he's the ringleader in getting rid and pawning his father's most precious items. That Dr. King worked so hard and died for and was murdered for, standing up for Black America. Now, once again, even though we may agree or disagree with some of Dr. King's strategies, some of his views, however, he gave his life and laid his life down for his people. So he must be given much credit for that. And for those who sit back and criticize that haven't done anything, they can sit back and just criticize. How many times have you even put your life on the line for your people for? Let alone give your entire life. So, those who are so opinionated, like them crackers, you need to, reserve judgment, especially today. Because if I find those who on social media make any negative comments towards Dr. King, I'm gonna fry your ass up tomorrow. So, I'm just giving you a heads up, and to taking this, at least this one day, into honoring the great Dr. King and Queen Mother Coretta Scott King. For there would be no Dr. King if it wasn't for Coretta, because Queen Mother Coretta, who was a conspiracy theorist, who brought the best out of Dr. King. She was an integral part in the success of the great Dr. King. And Coretta, a lot of people just see Coretta as someone who was just quiet and didn't make any noise and just smiled. But Coretta was a straight goddamn gangster. Coretta did not take any shit off these crackers because she knew who was complicit in her husband's demise. And she knew it wasn't James Earl Ray, because she visited James Earl Ray every other Sunday and put money on his books until the day he passed. Because she knew that James Earl Ray was not the trigger man in the Dr. King assassination, that he was just a patsy. They did not have an alibi or proper legal representation, and he was the fall guy. So let's just take it. Let's take this day and just think about some of the things Dr. King done for his people, done for us. You know, the efforts that he gave. You know, and how gay Edgar Hoover tried to make Dr. King appear that he was some type of homosexual or what have you. You know, and some of you all bought into that shit. You know, and those were just tactics to discredit Dr. King. So, and Lyndon Johnson, you know, he was the same thing. A big-eared, big-nosed, camel-breath hunky from Texas who couldn't stand Dr. King, who couldn't even stand President Kennedy. The only reason why he took the vice presidency with JFK was because he knew the assassination of JFK was going to take place and he would become president. This was already scripted and planned. So brothers and sisters, do your homework. Do your research. And you'll come up with your own conclusions. And you'll also be able to see things much more clear opposed to someone telling you these things. My job is to give you, to plant the seeds down. It's up to you to cultivate. Cultivate the seeds. And make your crops grow and blossom. Hotep, Black Power.